In this module, we'll look at some macro structures or discourse patterns you could use to help you organize your dissertation. Before we look at those common macro structures, here are suggestions on what else you can do in order to find the best organization for your dissertation. So first, make sure to visit your university's graduate school and department websites for guidelines and recommended thesis and dissertation formats. Second, ask your advisor, your department, or a student from your department for sample and model dissertations. Third, search your library's dissertation database or ProQuest for dissertations from your department and also those in which your advisor also served as mentor or committee member. Using those dissertations in which your advisor served as mentor will give you a better idea of what's expected, not only in terms of the overall structure of the dissertation, but also in terms of characteristics like length of the chapter, discourse style. An example of this is whether to use the first person I or we in your dissertation. And finally, use at least 2 of the dissertation samples that you find as guides while you draft and write. There is a lot of variability across fields, universities, and sometimes within departments. So using 2 or 3 samples will give you a better sense of what's typical and what's approved. So here are typical preliminary and final sections found in a dissertation. Cover page, you have the abstract, acknowledgement, the vita, table of contents, and list of tables and figures for the preliminary section. And for the section after the conclusion chapter, you have appendices and, of course, your references. Make sure you check your graduate school's website for thesis and dissertation formatting guidelines. This will save you a lot of time and formatting headaches. Thesis and dissertations, according to Brian Paltridge, can follow one of these 4 macro structures: traditional simple, traditional complex, compilation of articles, topic-based. And I've added the 5th one I call hybrid. The first type, traditional simple, will usually have 5 or 6 chapters titled Introduction, Literature Review, Methodology, Findings, and the final chapter, Discussion and Conclusion. This structure is called traditional in the sense that it follows the research genre structure that has an introduction, a review of literature, methods, findings, and conclusion. You'll find a lot of dissertations following this structure will also use these labels as their chapter titles. Dissertations in the social sciences and education will usually follow the traditional simple structure. Here we have the second and third types of macro structures side by side because they look rather similar to students at first glance. So it's a good idea to look at them side by side. Type number 2, called traditional complex, is called traditional or follows the traditional structure in that it has an introduction, it's got the review of literature, a methodology, and a results and conclusion section. However, as you can see, instead of just one study with one set of methods and one set of findings and discussions, you actually have 2 separate studies that probably share a theoretical framework and share one general set of methodology. The titles of chapters and sections will also vary depending on the topic of the dissertation. So chapter 4 would be, for example, titled a microstructure analysis of 6 narratives. And Chapter 5 would be a macro structure analysis of another set of narratives. Now, Type 3, a compilation of research articles, is probably influenced by the growing number of academic departments now, like economics and electrical, computer science, engineering, the biological sciences, that require students to have published articles already by the time they begin the dissertation stage. So this type, the compilation, is actually a collection of those published or still to be published articles. As a result, the chapters are more independent of each other. They may be shorter because of the restrictions imposed by the journals, and as well as the nature of the readers. When they submitted these for publications, they were actually writing to other experts. And as you can see, these different chapters, Chapter 3 and Chapter 4, also include their own separate literature reviews. Type 4 topic-based structure is different from the first three in that it may not have methods and findings in the traditional empirical sense. So this dissertation will still have an introduction and a review of literature, but will instead have a series of essays on related topics. And these topics may be theoretical and historical in nature. Arts and humanities lend themselves to, this type of structure. The fifth and final type is called a hybrid, and this is a combination of the topic-based and compilation of articles. As you will recall, the topic-based is a collection of essays on related or connected themes, and the compilation was a compilation of research articles, but in this case, in this hybrid, the compilation is of essays and articles.